only drill once. We can't like put them up, make a hole, and then change it. So we have to get this right off the bat.
Hey everyone, today's video is a really exciting one because it's part 4 of the series where I test out brands that reached out wanting to sponsor me. But the catch is, everything here is completely unsponsored. I have to repeat that, since people sometimes still assume I'm promoting something just because of sponsorship, but no, this is 100% my own honest review. I get a lot of emails from brands, and some of them catch my attention for different reasons. Some are so over the top that I think they'll be entertaining. Others make me really skeptical about whether they actually work as advertised. And then there are a few that genuinely seem promising and could turn out to be good partnerships, but I have to test them first before saying yes. That's why I love doing these videos. They give me the chance to try out the products, share the full experience with you, and give a completely transparent review so you can decide if the brand is worth it. So, without further delay, let's dive into the first one. The brand is called Bow Eye Wholesale, and they specialize in selling contact lenses. Over the last 7 years, I've experimented a bit with contacts, especially around Halloween. My last experience with sclera lenses was honestly terrifying. This brand claims to offer over 800 models of contact lenses, ranging from natural styles to cosplay looks, all at lower prices. That instantly caught my interest, because after trying quite a few lenses over the years, I feel like I know what to look for in terms of quality. But I'll admit, when I checked out their site, the prices were almost too low. So low that I was a little nervous about actually putting them in my eyes. Still, I decided to go ahead and order, and I was intrigued by some of the designs. Blackout. Lenses for Halloween, rainbow lenses, even ones that make your eyes look like hearts. I also wanted to test the kind that lightens dark brown eyes into a lighter shade. In the end, my order came out to $46.95, which is pretty inexpensive considering the variety. The package arrived quickly, and since I love reviewing contacts, I was excited to get started. Normally, I would just take the lens straight out of the packet and put it in my eye, but after my last video, many of you reminded me that I need to properly disinfect them first. Thankfully, I also ordered the disinfecting solution from Bow Eye, though I just realized you're supposed to let the lenses soak for at least 6 hours before wearing them. I guess I still didn't disinfect them properly. Whoops. They came with a contact lens case, and there's something both scary and fun about putting in contacts. I don't really enjoy the act of putting them on, but once they're in, it's like, wow. It completely changes your look. So let's get into it. The lenses I'm trying today are super opaque, and I even have rainbow ones in the mix. Before I've even put anything in my eye, it already feels like something's there, and one of these is supposed to black out my vision, which I had kind of forgotten about. Anyway, the contacts are ready, hands are clean, eyes are prepped, mom's spaghetti, and it's time. I check to make sure the lens is shaped like a bowl, pop it in, and wow, it looks scary. I'm scaring myself a little. When I open my eyes, really wide, one lens has more purple, the other more red, and together they sort of gradient across. One definitely looks cooler than the other. That's my showpiece eye for sure. Next up are lenses that are supposed to make my eyes look like a lighter brown, which is the type I see a lot of people actually wearing. These feel thinner, and once I get them in, wow, they definitely lighten my eyes, almost giving them a yellowish tint. They feel more natural too, probably because these are meant for more regular wear compared to the rainbow ones. My eyes even end up looking almost the same color as my hair. Finally, I try the blackout lenses. These are the ones I think will completely cover my vision, and sure enough, they do. I've worn whiteout lenses before that made everything hazy, but these are like looking through a dark black filter. With my already dark brown eyes, the look isn't that dramatic, and since I can't see much beyond my filming lights, I decide to leave only one in. For the price though, these feel just as good as other lenses I've bought for almost $30. Honestly, I expected them to be thick and uncomfortable, but they weren't. They looked the way they were supposed to, they arrived quickly, and the quality surprised me. Still, I don't think I'd take a sponsorship for them, but at least now I know, and if you've ever been curious, there's your answer. Not long after that, I got an email that immediately caught my attention. It started with, "Hi, it is my great honor to be able to get in touch with such a content creator as you," which was a bold opener. They wanted me to review their Udier Pixel Rider electric skateboard, and when I checked their site, it looked legit. But here's the thing. I'm not a skateboarder. The closest I got was riding a ripstick once as a kid, and I fell so badly that I ended up with road gravel stuck under my knee. Ever since then, I haven't touched anything like it. So now, the idea of testing an electric skateboard feels equal parts exciting and terrifying, because not only does it require balance and skill, but it's also way faster. Probably not my smartest idea, and yes, it cost $622. Holy crap. The box was so heavy when I first picked it up, but there it was, the Uder board. I opened it up, jokingly saying I hoped everyone was hungry for nothing because all I saw was the manual, which, let's be real, I'd probably need to revisit later. But then I noticed something game-changing, a removable handlebar. Suddenly it clicked. If I bought the handlebar, this could be like a scooter, and I can scooter. I just can't skateboard. That thought alone made me feel slightly less terrified. Inspecting it, the battery was underneath and the quality looked solid, which honestly it should be for the price. I couldn't help but laugh imagining how funny it would have been if I'd taken a sponsorship for this. People would be like, "Mia, what is happening right now?" Looking at the massive wheels, I tried to picture myself actually riding it, and the mental image was me flying through the air. Still, I couldn't deny how excited I was to try. Standing wide-legged on it in my room, I realized I could never ride it around the city. I'd probably die instantly, but at the same time, it felt like one of my better purchases. I decided I'd charge it and then risk my life outdoors for the sake of both entertainment and a proper review. The next day was a beautiful one, which also meant a lot of people were out, making my plan feel even more humiliating. Safety first, though. I grabbed protective gear and strongly recommend anyone attempting something this ridiculous does the same. I even joked with my mom to tell Chip I loved him before I set off. With her watching, I asked, "Does it look cool?" and tried to show off, but quickly realized I had no idea how to turn. The board required serious weight shifting, and it felt like a battle to stay balanced. My mom warned me to wear a helmet, which was absolutely the right call, but even with caution, I managed to fall, hard, truly like a sack of potatoes hitting the ground. I started slow, but the wipeout came fast. My mom even said maybe next time I should try it on grass, which honestly isn't the worst advice. Switching gears, the next brand to reach out was one I was genuinely curious about. The email began with, "I hope this message finds you well. I'm Skylar from Comfily, a woman-founded lingerie brand dedicated to empowering women through comfort." And instantly they had my attention. Empowering women through comfort? Yes, thank you. Comfily specializes in comfy bras, and I'm no stranger to reviewing bras. I've already covered the Bumba bra in this series, along with another brand. Marketed for small-chested people, which I'll never understand because I'm definitely not lacking in that department. First impressions were good. The bras looked seamless and wireless, made with 43% spandex and certified by Wayotique standards, which is always reassuring when it comes to material sourcing. They had a 4.8-star rating from over 170 reviews, and I was particularly drawn to a gorgeous burnt orange color. When the package arrived, I noticed the box said Mom Cozy, but inside were 2 bras. They weren't exactly cheap, but compared to $100 bras, they were reasonably priced. The fabric blend was 61% nylon and 39% spandex, and I had ordered a size small. I loved the scalloped edge detail and the overall stretchiness, which gave me hope for comfort. They also included an extender for the band, adding versatility with more latch hook options. Inside the cups, there were slits for removing the padding, though I planned to leave mine in. Everything about it pointed to being true to the name, Comfily. I had ordered 2 styles to test, both with the same thoughtful extender feature, and I couldn't wait to try them on to see if they lived up to the brand's promise of empowering comfort. The design of this bra is definitely consistent with the other one I tried, though the sizing is a little different than usual. Normally I'd be a 34B, but in this case I'm wearing a small. And here I am, bearing all on the internet in the name of review. Honestly, it's not that serious. It's covering more than most swimsuits I've worn. So calm down, YouTube algorithm, this is still very PG. The very first thing I noticed is that Comfily really lives up to its name. The comfort goes way beyond just not having an underwire. When I put it on, I literally thought, finally. because I've been on the hunt for a genuinely comfortable bra, and every time I buy one marketed as super comfy, it's usually not. But this one actually is. For sizing, I'm in a small, though in hindsight an extra small probably would have been a better fit. I'm already on the tightest clasp option, and it's still a little loose around the bottom, not dramatically so, but looser than ideal. Knowing now that they include the extender piece, I feel like I could have gone with the smaller size and still had flexibility. The triple clasp definitely helps with comfort, and the thicker adjustable straps distribute weight more evenly, which makes a big difference. I don't have a lot of weight to support up top, but I can imagine for those who do, the thicker straps would be a game changer. The second bra I tried confirmed my first impression. It's also super comfy. Honestly, I'm kind of excited about this one and maybe even regretting not taking the sponsorship because I genuinely like them. The only thing to keep in mind is that the bra does come up pretty high. It's bulkier than a lot of bras, so if you're wearing a low-cut top, it's definitely going to show, almost like you're layering a tank underneath. But overall, I really liked these. I'll definitely keep wearing them, and I might even pick one up in a nude shade. Shifting gears, the next brand I checked out was AG1 Supplements. I've been hearing their name everywhere, but I don't actually know much about them. They've reached out multiple times about sponsorships, so I decided to dig in. AG1 is marketed as a comprehensive daily nutrition supplement designed to support whole body health. But before I go any further, I want to be clear. I've made a purposeful decision not to team up with supplement companies at this point. It's not because I don't believe in supplements. I do, and I even take them myself, but I only trust a very small number of specific brands. If one of those exact brands reached out, then maybe I'd consider it. But with supplements, even if two companies claim to offer the same thing, the formulations can be completely different, so I just don't want to attach my name to one I don't personally use. That said, I still wanted to see what AG1 was about, so I went to their site. Right away, it kind of threw me into a subscription cart, 30 servings, shipped monthly, and I panicked for a second thinking I had just signed myself up. Checking my email, it turns out I actually might have subscribed by accident. Great, I only wanted 1 month to try, not a lifetime supply. Their marketing is strong though. Goodbye bloat, hello energy, packed with nutrients, support sustained energy and whole body health. And then they hit me with celebrity endorsements. Andrew Huberman saying he's been using it since 2012 because it's the simplest way to cover his vitamin and probiotic needs. Plus Olympians and even a Formula One champion claiming they swear by it. Honestly, I thought this was just another greens and superfoods powder. But it turns out it's a blend of vitamins, minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, and antioxidants all in one. And yeah, even I found myself kind of sold while scrolling. I honestly didn't realize how much extra came with this product until I opened it up and started reading everything. It's labeled as vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, non-GMO, with no added sugar and no artificial sweeteners, which all sounds very clean and appealing. They even claim that 97% of participants reported feeling more energized after 30 days, which makes it seem like something worth testing out. So I decided I'd do my own 30-day trial to see if it would make any noticeable difference in my life. When my AG1 box finally arrived, I was excited but also a little embarrassed, because I actually ordered it quite a while ago, and without realizing it, accidentally signed up for a subscription instead of just a one-time purchase. That meant not only did this package arrive, but 2 additional ones showed up in the following months before I eventually canceled the subscription. It wasn't intentional, just a mistake on my part. So I definitely warn anyone else thinking of trying this. If you don't want a recurring order, make absolutely sure you select the one-time purchase option, because the website setup can be a little confusing. I can't be the only person who has ever unintentionally subscribed to something when I meant to just buy it once. I'm not blaming AG1 for that mix-up, it was on me, but I want to make sure nobody else makes the same silly mistake. When I actually lifted the lid on the package, I was surprised at how glamorous the unboxing experience felt. Inside, there was a sleek little tin to store the powder in, along with a measuring bottle. I had assumed the bottle would be glass, but it turned out to be plastic, with measurement markings running down the side to make mixing easier. The label mentioned that it was produced in a TGA-registered facility, made in New Zealand, and certified sports safe. To be completely honest, I have no idea what half of those certifications mean. I'm not an expert in the supplement world at all, which is one of the reasons I usually avoid even talking about products like this. I don't want to give advice I'm not qualified to give. But this particular product is advertised everywhere, sponsored by so many creators, that I finally gave in and decided I just had to try it for myself. I'm not here to claim it will work the same for anyone else. I can only share my personal experience. And for the record, I'm very aware of how susceptible I am to placebos. If I start feeling better, I'll always wonder if it's just in my head. But if I notice real changes, then maybe there is something to it. The instructions say to take 1 level scoop of AG1 each day mixed into 8 to 12 ounces of cold water, refrigerate the powder after opening, and finish it within 90 days. I'm glad I actually read that detail because my first instinct would have been to toss the tin in the pantry with everything else. The plan is to drink it every single morning for the next 30 days. I've been hyper aware of my energy levels lately, how tired I feel, how often I get brain fog. So this feels like the perfect time to test whether it can actually help. The brain fog in particular has been so bad that I even went to the doctor about it, so if that clears up, I'll definitely notice a difference. Before even tasting it, I found myself oddly excited just to smell it, since the smell alone can make or break my willingness to stick with it every day. The scent reminded me of a mix between a spice cabinet and a faint hint of sweet apple in the background. It wasn't exactly appetizing, but it wasn't awful either. I reminded myself that I already drink spinach smoothies, and even though I didn't like them at first, I learned to enjoy them because of how energized they make me feel. That gave me some confidence that I could adjust to this, even if it wasn't the most delicious thing in the world. So I measured 1 scoop into about 8 ounces of water, the lower end of the range because I figured it would be easier to get down quickly if I concentrated it a little more. As I shook the bottle, I paid close attention to whether the powder actually dissolved, because I really can't stand gritty drinks. To my relief, the powder was incredibly fine and blended smoothly into the water without leaving clumps or sediment. That alone made it feel more manageable. For the flavor, the closest comparison I can make is a powdery blend of leafy greens, like lettuce or spinach, dried and crushed into drink form. I also caught a faint green apple note, though it was subtle compared to the overall vegetable taste. It wasn't something I'd call delicious, but it also wasn't offensive enough to make me dread drinking it. I could handle it. So that was day 1. I finished the glass, and while I didn't feel any magical surge of energy right away, I made a mental note of how I felt in that moment. Tired enough that I could nap, with some lower back pain, a knee that felt sore, and a brain foggy enough that I couldn't even remember what I'd eaten for breakfast. If after 30 days any of that feels improved, I'll count this experiment as a success. Putting aside the entire basis of this drink and all of its advertised health benefits for just 1 second, I want to highlight something really simple that ended up being a surprisingly positive part of this whole experience. Every single day for 30 straight days, I woke up and the very first thing I did was drink 8 ounces of water. No coffee first, no scrolling on my phone, no distractions, just a full glass of water on an empty stomach. And even without considering the supplement itself, I honestly think that habit alone was beneficial. It set a tone of mindfulness for my mornings, kind of like a small ritual that made me feel like I was doing something good for myself right away. Of course, it also meant that I had to pee a lot more often, which wasn't always convenient, but it did make me realize how often I go through mornings dehydrated without even realizing it. The label also makes a point of saying that anyone who is pregnant, nursing, dealing with medical conditions, on prescription medications, or even just unsure about whether this product is right for them, should definitely consult a healthcare professional first. And I think that's really solid advice. Supplements can affect everyone differently, and while my experience is mine alone, talking to a doctor first is always the safest place to start. So if you're even remotely curious about trying AG1, I'd suggest beginning with that step. Now, once those disclaimers are out of the way, here's how I actually felt. Over the course of the month, I genuinely think I experienced a small but noticeable boost in energy. Normally, after finishing my 9-to-5 workday, I'm pretty drained. So drained that I'll sometimes collapse onto the couch and take an unplanned nap before even making dinner. But during the month that I was drinking AG1, I found myself less exhausted after work. I don't know for certain if it was the supplement, or maybe just the fact that the weather was warming up and I was more motivated to spend time outdoors, which naturally gave me a lift. Either way, I did feel like I had a bit more energy to spare in the evenings, which made life feel a little less heavy. That said, not everything improved. At the beginning of the 30 days, I mentioned that one of the biggest issues I've been struggling with is brain fog. It's been a problem for over a year now, serious enough that I've had conversations with my doctor about it. And unfortunately, AG1 didn't fix that. I was really hoping for clearer thinking, sharper focus, or at least some relief. but the fogginess stayed the same. On top of that, my psoriasis flared up more than usual this month, which was frustrating. I can't blame AG1 directly for that, because flare-ups can happen for a dozen different reasons. But since I'm trying to be transparent, I wanted to mention it along with the positives. So overall, my experience was a bit mixed, but leaning positive. I can't credit AG1 with solving my brain fog or preventing flare-ups. But I also can't deny that I felt more energetic and maybe even a little more disciplined, just from committing to the daily routine of drinking it. Plus, it was interesting to finally try something that I see promoted by influencers and creators constantly. I'm glad I gave it a fair shot, and now I can say I've tested it myself instead of just watching other people talk about it. Those are my thoughts, scattered, imperfect, but honest. And then there's this Dior bag sitting right in front of me, the one I ordered with a little hesitation, but a lot of curiosity. The first thing I noticed when I opened the box was the color, and right away something felt off. I swear the listing made it look like a soft baby blue, delicate and light, almost pastel. That's what I thought I was ordering. Then when the seller sent me photos before shipping, it already seemed a shade darker, and now that I'm holding it in my hands, it looks darker still. It's not a bad color, but it's definitely not what I pictured. Part of me wonders if I imagined the lighter shade, or maybe the photos were edited, or maybe it's just one of those online shopping situations where lighting changes everything. I'm willing to chalk it up as an honest mistake, but it was my first moment of doubt. When I actually started handling the bag, I thought at first that the smell was genuine leather, but the longer I held it, the more I realized it might actually just be the strong glue scent giving that impression. Still, the feel of the material is surprisingly nice. And this is where things get tricky, because if I were an authenticator and someone dropped this bag on my desk, I think I might be convinced it was real. Everything from the stitching to the weight of the hardware feels convincing. That makes me think about how much pressure is on authenticators, because people like me, who don't shop designer often, would have a really hard time telling the difference. The inside even has Christian Dior Paris Made in Italy stamped on the label, and the interior fabric feels like suede. Luxurious, soft, and well-finished. If I didn't know better, I'd believe it. Part of me is really tempted to send this off to an authenticator just to see what they'd say. Would they be able to tell immediately? Or would this one actually pass? Because right now, sitting in front of me, it feels almost too good to be fake. When I pulled up a real Dior saddlebag on my phone, my jaw dropped. The official price? $5,900, nearly $6,000 for a handbag. I didn't even realize Dior bags were that expensive. And honestly, the thought of carrying something that valuable in public terrifies me. I already feel paranoid wearing a wedding band, let alone toting around a $6,000 accessory. It's mind-blowing that so many people casually walk around with that much value slung over their shoulder. Looking at the details side by side, the double straps, the D and C charms on the side, even the zipper pocket inside, it all looks pretty much identical. If there's any giveaway, it's the material. I don't think this is real leather, whereas the genuine one is crafted in a high-grade calfskin. But again, that's something most people wouldn't notice unless they were specifically looking for it. And here's the part that leaves me conflicted. On one hand, this imitation is impressively well made, and at $375, it's a fraction of the cost of the real thing. On the other hand, $375 is still a lot of money for something that isn't authentic. And then there's the ethical debate. Designer replicas are a gray area, but what really feels bold, almost brazen, is that this bag doesn't just mimic the style. It actually has Christian Dior and Made in Italy stamped inside, which crosses a different kind of line. If it were just inspired by the design, that's one thing. But when it tries to pass itself off as the real deal, it becomes a whole other conversation. What really gets me, though, is the bigger picture. There's this common belief that luxury brands are charging sky-high prices because their products are made with impeccable ethics, sustainable practices, or rare, high-quality materials. But time and again, I've learned that's not always true. I've seen Gucci sell a plain polyester t-shirt for $800, and it shattered my assumptions. It made me realize that the price tag often doesn't equal quality or responsibility. It's just branding, exclusivity, and demand. That's been one of the most disappointing discoveries about the luxury fashion world. So here I am, holding this replica Dior saddlebag, torn. On one hand, I can admit it's beautiful, surprisingly convincing, and honestly, if no one told me, I'd believe it was real. On the other, I know it's a replica. I know nothing about how or where it was produced, and I can't ignore the fact that buying it feeds into a shady industry. But at the same time, I'm not sure I'll be able to stop myself from actually using it. Because the truth is, it looks good, it feels good, and compared to $6,000, $375 almost feels like a bargain. Almost. So here's where things got a little unexpected. I was originally just curious about trying out this food dehydrator by London Sunshine. They had reached out for a collaboration, but I wasn't really in the mood to collaborate. I just genuinely wanted to see what it was like because I've never used one before. When it arrived, I was honestly surprised at how fast it showed up at my door. But then a couple of days later, another dehydrator appeared on my doorstep. That immediately sent me into panic mode. I thought, oh no, what if I accidentally ordered two? I checked my order history, scrolled through every detail, and confirmed that I had only purchased one. So the second one must have been sent by mistake. Now I'm standing there surrounded by dehydrators like, SpongeBob, help. I'm hooked. I'm in too deep. The thing is actually pretty fascinating. Before I even unboxed it, I had spent a little time Googling dehydrators, just to understand why people bother with them when you could technically just use your oven. Turns out there are some good reasons. For one, a dehydrator is way more energy efficient if you're doing this a lot, since it doesn't require running your oven for hours and hours. Plus, some ovens can't even go low enough for proper dehydration. The lowest setting on many ovens is 200 degrees, and that's still too hot for a lot of foods. So I started to see the point. Still, I wasn't prepared for how bulky this thing was. Unboxing it was kind of chaotic. First, there was so much styrofoam, and styrofoam is honestly the bane of my existence. My hands were covered in little static bits that stuck to everything. Finally, I realized there were handles to pull it out properly. So much easier. When I finally got it onto the counter, I was impressed. This isn't some cheap gadget. It's heavy, sturdy, and looks serious, almost like a miniature oven or a microwave from the front. But instead of a turntable inside, there are multiple trays you stack for different foods. The instruction booklet gave me an idea of drying times for various fruits. Apples, bananas, and lemons take around 6 to 9 hours. Strawberries take 8-10, blueberries and raspberries, a shocking 20-24 hours. That's literally an entire day of dehydrating just for a handful of berries. Still, I was excited to experiment. I grabbed what I had on hand: blueberries, raspberries, peaches, and lemons. I don't buy peaches often, so I wasn't even sure how to prep them properly. I felt like Kendall Jenner trying to cut that cucumber, awkward and unsure. I sliced into one peach, and to my horror, it was rotten. The betrayal. In this economy too? Still, I salvaged a bit and kept moving forward. Next up was the lemon. I cut one in half, and it exploded with juice. So much lemon juice that it ran down the cutting board. Typically, for fruit snacks, you'd blend everything together into one mixture, but I wanted to get creative. I decided to make a gradient effect. Different fruits layered one after another, so the final result would look and taste like a rainbow of flavors. That meant blending everything separately, which also meant dirtying twice as many dishes. Classic. I started with the peaches and lemon, blended them smooth, and spread the mixture onto one of the trays. Then I moved to raspberries. They smelled amazing but needed a little lemon juice to balance out the tartness. I dumped them into the food processor, forgot the blade for a second, rookie mistake, put it back in, and finally got a thick, bright red mixture that looked delicious. Then I did the blueberries, more lemon, more blending, and soon my counter looked like a DIY fruit leather factory. As I layered them into the trays, I realized how fun this actually was. The colors looked so vibrant, and the gradient effect started to come together beautifully. I had this moment where I looked at everything and thought, what even is this video? Why am I reviewing a food dehydrator? Why are you watching me review a food dehydrator? But at the same time, it looked so cool that I couldn't stop. I set the dehydrator to 149 degrees, which was oddly specific since the range is 140-149, and programmed it for 22 hours. The machine immediately adjusted it down to 20 hours and 30 minutes, which cracked me up. It's like even the dehydrator knew I was being extra. And that's it. It's now humming away in the background, slowly transforming fruit puree into chewy snacks. Honestly, I never thought I'd be this invested in a dehydrator, but here I am. At this point, it might just become part of my personality for the next few months. So here's the thing. I really hope this dehydrator doesn't light on fire in the middle of the night